So, good afternoon, Amanda. Thanks so much for joining us. For those listening to this brief video, let me introduce Amanda O'Donnell. She's the Chief Customer Officer and effectively the Chief Marketing Officer for Hollard Insurance here in Australia, with overall responsibility for marketing, customer and customer experience. Amanda reports directly to the CEO and is a part of the Hollard leadership team. Amanda, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
So look, let's set the scene on the journey to today and talk about the business journey of Hollard's. I mean, many of people listening to this and watching this probably wouldn't even have heard of Hollard, perhaps. You were always a brand behind the scenes, you know, the brand behind the brands like Real Insurance, Petshaw, Woolies, Greenstone, you were always behind them. But now, excitingly, you're a top 5 player, and that's a really significant and exciting shift. So talk to me about that journey. It's such a transformation from what was a very small business in Australia, a startup, effectively 20 or so years ago, to now being a top 5 player. Love to understand a little bit more about that journey.
Sure. It has been an incredible journey of growth for Hollard over the last 22 years. So as a startup, really coming in, being nimble, opportunistic, looking to challenge and kind of disrupt the insurance market. And we've just been through such an amazing period of growth, blessed to partner with some incredible brands across Australia that you've mentioned. And particularly, I would say over the last 5 years, I would say, we've really had to adapt from being a challenger to now being in more of that kind of top 5 space. Especially, we've been very blessed recently to enter into a strategic partnership with Commonwealth Bank. And that, on top of a lot of our existing partnerships, has just meant that we've just been through an incredible period of change as a business. I think we're particularly blessed to have private ownership, which definitely gives us a fantastic advantage in terms of not only having a long-term focus as a business, but also, I would say, the encouragement to be a positive business and to really not necessarily be driven by short-term decision-making. And so I think because we've been so focused on being a partnership-based business for so long and becoming excellent brand custodians for our partners, we haven't really focused so much on the Hollard brand. So you're right, not a whole lot of listeners will have probably heard of Hollard before. It's something that we haven't really invested in a whole lot, but something that we will do more into the future. And this project that we've been working on with you has been fantastic in kind of getting a really solid start to that journey of building awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Amanda. I mean, it's and you've touched on part of the answers to what is my next question, which really goes to the motivations for the project. You've talked about how the fact that you've really been focused on your partner brands rather than your own brand, that you've been sitting behind the scenes, you know, almost being a pit crew for them, if you like, you know, leaving them out on the track, winning in races. But why, over and above what you've just talked about, why was this project really needed now? What was the key opportunity in elevating the Hollard brand?
So I think having gone from that startup to now onboarding more and more employees, I think as you grow, it becomes so much more necessary to really define who we are as a brand and what we stand for. It's something that I think when you enter a business that's relatively small, it can be easy to pass that on. But as you get bigger and bigger, it's much more important to have that really kind of well-defined who we are, what do we stand for, what are we about, not just externally for partners in the market, but for our own employees, to create that sense of pride and, I suppose, make sure that everyone is singing from the same hymn sheet. So because we've spent so much time really focused on our partner brands, particularly with onboarding a whole range of new employees as part of that strategic alliance with Commonwealth Bank, we just felt that now was really the time. We'd kind of grown substantially, and we were bringing on so many more new employees that it was super important for us to get this right.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I suppose that the other side of the opportunities that you just run through are the risks associated with this. And if we didn't quite get it right, I mean, there's a lot at stake. You have effectively doubled the size of your employee base. You're now, I think, the biggest organisation or entity within the Hollard Group globally. So there was quite a bit at stake. So what do you see as the overall risks? What might have gone wrong, perhaps?
There's probably a few things. So the biggest thing that springs to mind for me in terms of risks is just that at Hollard we tend to like biting off big, hairy, or audacious goals, and so there's always a lot of competing projects and priorities. And so we wanted to make sure that we did this right, and we had employee involvement along the way, so that what we were building by the people for the people.
Yeah.
And so that competing priorities definitely was one of those risks, that we're just throwing one more thing kind of into people's job jars to be involved and to give their views and their opinions and their input, and to review everything that was coming out of this. So that was a really big risk that we knew going into this, just with everything that's going on. But actually, we had such amazing engagement that turned out to be, not too big of an issue. And I would say, in terms of other risks, we do have a very strong South African heritage. The Hollard brand has been around long before it was established in Australia, over in South Africa. And we wanted to, I suppose, be respectful of that, pay homage, but also to localize and make sure that we had something that was going to be suitable for the Australian market. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we got that balance right as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things we've discovered through the project is just the strength of the culture, the Hollardites and their commitment. They've endured the entrepreneurialism, the innovation, the risk taking, all within measured, balance, of course. Yeah.
Actually, maybe there's one more risk that's probably worth calling out, which is that when we're going through this process of defining who we are as a brand and taking our employees on that journey, it's kind of important to acknowledge that we have been through a lot of change as a business. And you can't go through the amount of incredible growth that we've been through and not have changing culture, aspects of our culture that from the past that are amazing that we want to retain, and aspects that kind of as we go forward maybe don't serve us as well as kind of we face into being a top 5 insurer. And so again, making sure that we've got that balance kind of really well defined in terms of what makes us special, what do we want to take forward, what's going to help drive our success into the future. And I think having our people, our Hollardites, involved in that process to help kind of define that is the reason why it has been embraced so well since we've launched it.
Let's take things a little wider for a moment before we bring this to a close. I just wanted to talk to you about the industry in overall terms, the state of the insurance industry in 2022 and beyond, and the role of brand as part of that. What role can brand play? What difference can brand make as we encounter some of the challenges that we've talked about already?
Sure. So insurance, as I've mentioned, is definitely a really fascinating space. And I think the role of insurance is just becoming even more and more important over time, as we're starting to see, unfortunately, the negative impacts of climate change, more floods, hail, storms. We've just seen such an increase in catastrophic events across Australia, and unfortunately can't see that getting much better over time. It's definitely well and truly time for us to take some action here, and we're certainly serious as an insurer in playing our part in that. So I would say that what's most important in terms of brand is building that trust. Our customers and our partner brands just want to know that we're going to be there for our customers when they need us. And increasingly that's a really, it's a difficult but important thing for us to get right, considering that when we think about our customers and we think about the customer experience, we need to think both about customers as individuals and making sure that we are being respectful of their time and providing really good expertise in handling their claims when they need us most, but also thinking on a macro level about our customers as a whole, and thinking about impact on insurance premiums, and thinking about how we manage risk, thinking about how we work with government and agencies and regulators to play our part in making sure that we keep insurance available and affordable over time. And that is it's not an easy challenge. But I think certainly how our brand and purpose work that we've just worked through will help. That really provides that compass. So when we say we use our expertise, integrity, and humanity to go further together, we can use that now as a compass to guide us in our decisions as individuals, and as we're sitting around in senior leadership meetings, deciding on products and changes to claims and innovation and how we make our experience better, to build that trust in our brand for our customers, so they do feel like they're in safe hands when the worst happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big responsibility, isn't it? I mean, we talk about, brands being a promise kept, but in the insurance sector particularly, it's even more critical to deliver on the promise, which is, what Hollard has been doing through partners previously, will increasingly emerge as a top 5 insurance brand going forward, and that the criticality of trust and the delivery on that brand promise is so important. The purpose work you mentioned as well. So that's
Absolutely.
been fantastic. Yeah, Amanda, thank you again. All the
Paul.
best. Thanks. Bye.